Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What are we unpacking today?
Well, we're tackling something that's been generating a lot of buzz lately. Um, Social and emotional learning. SEL for short.
Oh, yeah, SEL. I've seen that acronym popping up everywhere. Definitely a hot topic.
It is. You see it in headlines, school board meetings, even like casual conversations. Definitely seems like something worth a closer look, don't you think?
I think so, especially with the stack of articles and research you've got here. Seems like you want to get to the heart of this one.
Absolutely. So before we get into all the debate swirling around it, let's just, start with the basics. What exactly is SEL?
Right, back to basics.
Yeah, I mean, we hear all about teaching kids their ABCs and 123s, but what about these, what do they call them, soft skills? Is that even the right term?
You know, I don't think soft skills really captures it. When we talk about self-awareness, self-management, knowing how to build relationships, making responsible decisions, I mean, those are pretty fundamental. Those are life skills.
Okay, I can get behind that. It's
Yeah.
one thing to, ace a math quiz, but knowing how to navigate a disagreement with a friend or like deal with the stress of a big presentation, those are skills you need outside of school too.
Exactly. And look, this isn't some new age thing either. I mean, educators have been talking about this stuff for decades, maybe not always as SEL, but the core ideas are there.
So it's been around, just maybe with different packaging.
Yeah, exactly. Like you remember whole child education or character development, same idea, just maybe a different name tag.
Okay, yeah, that rings a bell. So same idea, different packaging, but now it's sparking all this debate.
Seems like it.
Before we dive into all that, can we make those core skills, as you call them, a little more, relatable? Like, what does SEL actually look like in action?
Okay, sure. Picture this. It's a Monday morning, you accidentally sleep in, rush out the door without breakfast.
Oof, been there.
Right. And suddenly you're in a terrible mood.
Especially before that first cup of coffee.
Exactly. Now, self-awareness in that moment, that's you being able to recognize, okay, I'm feeling extra grumpy right now because I'm running on fumes.
Makes sense. So then self-management is not snapping at your friend who asks to borrow a pencil.
Exactly. It's having those strategies to manage those feelings. Like maybe you take a few deep breaths, or even better, grab a granola bar. And, that right there, that's a perfect example of where social awareness comes in. Your friend notices you're not yourself, maybe asks, hey, is everything okay? They're picking up on those social cues.
And if they offer you half their breakfast burrito,
Yeah.
I mean, that's next level relationship building right there.
Exactly. It's empathy, it's communication, knowing how to, build and maintain healthy relationships.
Which brings us to, I guess, that final piece of the puzzle, responsible decision making. So in this case, our hungry and slightly sleep-deprived student realizes, okay, maybe snapping at my friend isn't the best move.
Right. They've identified their feelings, considered the impact on someone else, and then, chosen a more constructive path. Pretty valuable stuff, don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. But here's the thing, and it's something, we see reflecting all this research you sent over. Most people seem to agree that, yeah, these skills are important, but that term SEL, it's like a lightning rod.
It's true. It's interesting, right? You don't hear many people arguing that empathy or self-control or making good decisions are bad things, but put them all together, call it SEL, and suddenly it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so let's unpack that. One of the big criticisms we keep seeing, especially in some of these, well, let's call them strongly worded articles you sent,
Yeah.
it's this idea that SEL is like a Trojan horse, like there's some hidden agenda.
Right. And to understand that, I think you have to acknowledge this broader anxiety some people feel about education in general these days. There's this fear, fueled by some pretty strong rhetoric that schools are becoming these battlegrounds for ideological debates.
This whole woke agenda idea.
Yeah.
But what does that even mean when we're talking about SEL? What are people actually afraid of?
Well, some people are afraid that SEL is being used to, to push a specific political viewpoint, or
Hmm.
that it's stepping on the toes of values and beliefs that they think should be taught at home, not at school. Like under the guise of teaching social and emotional skills, are schools actually promoting ideologies that clash with what families believe, that kind of thing.
So it's less about the skills themselves and more about who gets to decide what values are being emphasized. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And this concern, it often comes back to the curriculum, the actual resources used in SEL programs. Some parents are worried about bias or maybe a lack of transparency in how these programs are developed and what they're actually teaching.
That makes sense. And it seems like that's at the heart of what's happening in, like, Charlottesville, right?
Absolutely. those local news reports you shared, parents there pushed back against a freshman seminar, and SEL was a part of it. They were worried about the content, the messages being sent, and if those messages aligned with their own values.
And it's not just Charlottesville. We saw similar debates in, gosh, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Maine, Iowa. It's spreading.
It is, and this politicization of SEL, it's one of the reasons it's so hard to even talk about this. Because when something becomes a political football, it's easy to lose track of, the nuances, the shared goals, the potential common ground. It's like people are talking past each other.
Trying to score points instead of figure out what's best for kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild, though, right? Like, on the one hand, you have all this debate, people worried about, agendas and indoctrination, but then you've got all this research saying, hey, this stuff works.
Yeah, no, it's a real head scratcher, isn't it? You've got these strong opinions, but then you've got the data saying, hold on a second, there's a lot of good that can come from this.
Exactly. And it's not just like anecdotal feel-good stories. We're talking some serious research here.
Right, and that Durlac study from 2011, that was a big one.
Yeah, over 200 different SEL programs they looked at. That's a lot.
Huge. And they found pretty consistently that SEL programs had these positive effects across all kinds of outcomes, too. I mean, we're talking academics, behavior, social skills, even just the overall school environment.
Okay, but that's mostly short term, right? Like what happens down the line?
Well, that's what you want to know, right? Like, does
Mhm.
any of this stick? And the good news is there's research on that, too. This study from 2017 by Taylor, they followed up with students years later, and the ones who had been part of these SEL programs, they were doing better in a lot of ways.
Like what? Give me the good stuff.
Well, they had stronger relationships, for one. Higher graduation rates, they were less likely to, have issues with substance abuse or get in trouble with the law. Pretty powerful stuff.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking less bullying in school and better choices later in life. Sign me up.
But seriously, with all this evidence, why are we even having this debate? It seems like we should be giving every kid a crash course in SEL from day one.
Well, it's not that simple. Remember that Fordham Institute survey we talked about? One of the big takeaways from that was this disconnect between the term SEL and what it actually means.
The terminology gap. People just hear SEL and freak out.
It's more than that. I mean, yeah, some people hear SEL and they think it's, I don't know, some kind of buzzword. But a lot of those same people, if you ask them about teaching kids to manage their emotions or resolve conflicts peacefully, they're like, yeah, that's important. We should be doing that.
So they like the idea, they just hate the label.
Kinda, yeah. They want their kids to learn these skills. They just don't want them packaged as SEL. It's like they're saying, yeah, teach my kid to be a good human. Just don't call it SEL.
There you go. And I think that's an important thing to remember for anyone who's, trying to navigate this whole debate, especially at a local level. Focus on the skills themselves, the values, the outcomes you're hoping for. Maybe life skills lands better than SEL. Maybe it's about character development.
Right. It's about finding that common ground.
Yeah.
And that's got to start with talking to each other, right?
Mhm.
Because remember that political divide we talked about earlier? Democrats mostly on board with SEL, Republicans a lot more skeptical.
Yeah, finding a way forward means bridging that gap. And I think it starts with being honest about what we want for our kids and why.
Because whether we call it SEL or life skills or anything else, we all want kids to grow up to be good people, right? Kind, capable, successful.
Absolutely. And if we can agree on that, maybe, just maybe, we can make education a little less about division and a little more about, coming together to support the next generation.
Now, that's something we can all get behind. Well, folks, there you have it, the SEL debate. The research, the concerns, the whole shebang. Hopefully this gives you some food for thought, maybe some things to talk about around your own dinner table. Keep those questions coming, keep digging deeper, and until next time, happy diving.